What is the role of religion in our ever-changing world? From the News Channel 5 network, this is Issues of Faith.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Issues of Faith. What are the internal stories that hold us back, that keep us from being our best? Why is this something more and more churches are studying? And what is the tool they are using? Today we're talking about the Enneagram. We have with us best-selling author Ian Morgan Cron. He is also an Episcopal priest, a psychotherapist, and the host of the podcast Typology. Thank you for being here.
It's my delight. Thank you.
For being here in person. So, the Enneagram. This is something a lot of churches are now talking about, a lot of people are talking about. Let's give us a 101, high-level briefing on what is the Enneagram for those who may not know what it is.
Well, the Enneagram is an ancient personality typing system that teaches there are 9 basic personality styles in the world, one of which we gravitate toward and adopt in childhood as a way to cope, to feel safe, to protect ourselves, and to navigate the new world of relationships in which we find ourselves. These 9 types are described with uncanny accuracy, and it has proven to be very, very helpful to people of all faiths and traditions.
And so you've written this book, The Story of You. You've written several books on the Enneagram, but this book is one that I've just read, The Story of You. Fascinating. And what you say is that we create these stories in childhood to cope. And then we keep telling that story, even though it may be outdated. And so how does the Enneagram help us identify that and deal with that?
Well, each of the 9 types has a story that it tells themselves and others about who they are and how they think the world works. Now, one of the things that I've studied over the years is what's called narrative therapy, right? How do we address broken stories in our lives and begin the process of rewriting new stories? Because as Dan McAdams, an expert in that field, says, all transformation is story transformation. And so as people of faith, we want to make sure the narrative that we inhabit is true so that we can become the highest expression of who we are.
And this is something I said at the top of the show that is being embraced by more and more churches. Is that true? And why do you think churches are turning to this? This is not out of the Bible. This is an ancient tool that is not biblical. But why are churches turning to this?
Well, 2 things. One is very interesting. The Enneagram is several thousand years old, but it has Christian roots. There was a monk in the early church. His name was Evagrius Ponticus. And the earliest work with the Enneagram we can trace directly back to him. Secondly, I think churches are interested in it because self-knowledge is, and unfortunately has been, a long ignored virtue in the church, right? But as John Calvin, who you know and I know, a great doctor of the church, once said, without knowledge of self, there is no knowledge of God. So it's important for us as people of faith to know who we are, the inner architecture of how we're built, so that we can live aligned with our values, both spiritual and personal.
So we learn about ourselves through this. We also learn how to better interact with others. Would that be a fair statement?
Oh my gosh, yes. And of course, that's important, right? Because how can we love others if we don't understand them? Or if we don't understand ourselves in relationship to other people? And I have to tell you, I speak at churches all over the world. And there is not a workshop that goes by without someone coming up to me and saying, the Enneagram saved my marriage. The Enneagram helped me keep my job. The Enneagram enriched my relationships with everybody in my life. And so I really appreciate the value and the power of this tool to, dare I say, revolutionize people's lives.
And that may be another reason churches are turning to it. We need to do a better job of communicating. We need to do a better job of understanding others, and this helps. And so you are speaking at churches all over.
Oh my gosh, yes. And also in corporations, because they have a great interest in, developing self-awareness on their teams to create more cohesion. So, it's interesting. There's a study done at Cornell University in their business school. And one of the the conclusions of the study was that a key predictor of success in business is self-awareness. I would argue it's a key predictor of success in life. In our marriages, in our parenting, in our friendships, in our churches or our synagogues, whatever it may be, when you know and understand yourself and you know and understand others, you can better relate to that person and care about that person in a way that they'll understand and receive.
Now we have a picture of the Enneagram, the 9 different things. I want to put that up here, and you can kind of describe. So what we're talking about, again, there are 9 different personality types. Mm-hmm. And people might find that hard to believe. There are billions of people in the world, only 9. How does that work? Why do you think that works, that there are only 9? And you can kind of read along what they are.
Sure.
Up there.
Well, let me address that, because you bring up a really important point that others do as well when I'm teaching. People say to me all the time, isn't this a little simplistic? I mean, as you said, billions of people in the world, only 9 personality types. So what I do is I tell them, look, think about the color continuum, right? We go to Home Depot with a partner or a friend to buy a red to paint the dining room, and you'll soon find out that there is an infinite variety of reds. So I think you see what I'm trying to equate here. It's that, listen, if you're a 9 on the Enneagram, it's like red. There's an infinite variety of expressions of that type, but you're still that type, right? So again, it accounts for all the billions of people. As you can see, the Enneagram is laid out in fact, the word Enneagram means Ennea, 9, gram, which means drawing. That's all it means. And you have these 9 types laid out on this geometric figure here.
What's the most popular? Is there one that's that most people fall into, or is it pretty much divided equally, or what would you say there?
Well, of course, it's pure speculation. We think there are more 6s in the population than any other type. The second would be 9s. The one with the fewest or the least representation in the population would be 4s. But, there is pretty even distribution in my experience, and there's none that are more popular than another. It's not like 1s are awesome and 9s are not so great, or vice versa. Each of them brings tremendous gifts to the table of life when they're operating in their healthiest expression.
Right. And my wife and I have recently read one of your books. We've looked through some of this stuff. And yeah, it takes a while to identify, but there are great things about every one. No matter what it is, they're great, positive things. But then there's also stuff you need to work on. Mm-hmm. And I guess a shadow, or I don't know how far you want to go with that, but there's also stuff you can work on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I tell people, because I'm asked, how is this different than StrengthsFinders or DISC or Myers-Briggs? And I say, well, one of the things that distinguishes the Enneagram from all of those is that it describes how what's best about you is what's potentially worst about you, and what's worst about you can be transformed into something wonderful about you. What really matters is self-awareness. You're able in the moment to observe your personality, the way that you habitually and predictably act, think, and feel from moment to moment, and make new choices, right? So, if you know that your type struggles with a particular issue, you can spot it when it begins to launch into action and go, maybe I should make a different decision here.
And if you are self-aware, you can do those kinds of things. All right, I want to take a break, and then we're going to come back and talk about how can we use this tool to improve ourselves. And so if our personalities are developed as children, do we keep telling a story about ourselves that may be outdated?
Yes.
All right, so we'll take a break. Be back right after this.